Welcome back to Sunday Vibes, one and all. We're in the pub, me, Chris and Pat, to answer your questions. The first one was sent in by Tom Jackson, and he says, should Juventus sell or should they keep Paulo Dybala? Now, Chris for once is kicking us off, because you've actually done some research.
A tease. I've actually done some research. Yes, I was writing a scout report this week. I've gone full Bianconeri today as well, black and white, got a Ginwar in, so I'm prepped. I'm ready. Let's see how this goes. Now, Paulo Dybala has struggled for form and minutes at the start of this season, which is interesting because he was their top goal scorer last season with 22 goals, the fulcrum of that side. They were very dependent on him in the league, 4 goals. I think the next high top goal scorer was Sami Khedira on roughly 9. Mandzukic getting about 5. So yes, they were relying on him for the goals. However, this season we've seen a reshuffle in the pack. Allegri's kind of gone from his tried and tested 4-2-3-1 to a 4-3-3 to get the best out of Ronaldo.
Yeah.
And Ronaldo has sort of adapted as quickly as would have suspected.
Yeah.
He's averaging 5.4 shots inside the box, which is more than the next 4 most productive players. It's absolutely sickening.
So
they've got Ronaldo as their main goal scoring threat in the league. They have Mandzukic there to facilitate that Ronaldo sort of style of play in the same way that Benzema was picking up the hard yards for Ronaldo in Madrid. You've got him shielding those Ronaldo from the sort of hyper-tactical defenders, those bruising defenders in Serie A. And then you've got Bernardeschi, who's gone off like an absolute rocket at the start of this season on the right-hand side, averaging more key passes than Dybala, averaging more shots than Dybala, and he's generally a little bit more pacey, a little bit more direct, which you need when you've kind of got a more immobile Cristiano Ronaldo. I mean, he's still got that speed. We saw it at the World Cup, but it's used very fleetingly. And Mandzukic, who's kind of there to throw elbows and cause general housery. So Dybala, all of a sudden, from being their starlet, from being the number 10, you know, that was bestowed upon him last season following in the footsteps of Del Piero, of Savori, he was really the apple of everyone's eye at the Juventus Stadium last year. He's now struggling to force his way into the side, and it's how he'll receive that's the interesting part, right? Will he adapt? I mean, Allegri will play different formations over the course of the season. We saw it last night against Bologna. He came back in a central role. He scored. But will he accept maybe a more kind of rotation-based role? Because English clubs and Spanish clubs have shown heavy interest in the past, haven't they?
Yeah.
Now, I think an interesting scenario is they could sell Dybala and maybe fund a move for someone like Paul Pogba, because they need to future-proof that midfield, right?
Yeah.
Blaise Matuidi approaching 32. Sami Khedira, his physical presence attributes are sort of in terminal decline because of those recurrent injuries. He's already out for a month at the start of this season, having picked up a knock against Valencia.
Marquisio's gone.
Marquisio is gone, exactly. Emre Can is an able deputy, but he's not going to provide that sort of elite output that is going to take Juventus to Barca Real territory, is it? I think maybe Juventus are a Paul Pogba away from joining that very, very elite club. So, my question to you guys is, maybe especially you as a Manchester United fan, would you accept Dybala and cash for Paul Pogba? Because that's what has been floated in the press. I think that would maybe, I don't know if it'd suit both parties because you've got a plethora of attacking talent.
It wouldn't suit Paulo Dybala, would it?
Someone like Dybala, because he's clearly the next manager coming in. But yeah, what are your thoughts on it? Because mine are that if he becomes a peripheral figure, they'll cash in on him. Because Agnelli and Beppe Morata have shown that they will part ways with a big star, much like Pogba was when he left. He was the driving force of that midfield 15-16 to kind of make the team better.
I don't see it happening. I think you talked briefly there about future-proofing the midfield. I think Juventus should keep Dybala to future-proof the attack. I think, Ronaldo probably 2 to 3 more seasons of being that 5-6 shots a game monster in and around the area that we're seeing now. That has to end at some time. Who do they have that is anywhere near Dybala's level to step in and fill that hole when it happens?
But by the time that ends, Dybala will be 28.
But by that time, he's perfectly adept to fill in the void. They're going to have to go out and spend another 200 million to sign a player like Paulo Dybala. So why sell him in the first place?
Well,
Because if you bring Paul Pogba in, you are bringing... We talk about Cristiano Ronaldo's wage being, 4 or 5 times anyone else in Serie A. Pogba's wage will be huge as well. Absolutely monstrous. I think he left Serie A or Juventus Stadium earning sort of 70k a week. He'll be on upwards of 300 at Man United.
Yeah, I mean, they have shown a willingness to spend, though, haven't they?
But can they afford Ronaldo?
Now they've broke their sort of the way they run the club.
100%. But can they afford to have a £500,000 a week player in Ronaldo and a £300,000 a week player in Paul Pogba in that side?
Yeah, wages. Well, I mean, Ronaldo must be getting paid an absolute fortune, and for the first time, you know, we're seeing that in Serie A because wage structure has been what's held Serie A back versus the other big leagues.
Yeah,
you'd have
big
to
time.
Say. The advantage about Pogba is that he actually doesn't just sort your midfield, he does sort your attack. Like, he's one of the best in the Premier League at ball progression, both at receiving progressive passes and playing them himself. And that's actually such a huge advantage. There was some work done on this recently by Michael Cayley, and he's been talking about if you look at players who receive progressive passes and play progressive passes, in the Premier League, then actually loads of them are fullbacks because loads of sides, like, it's really hard to progress through the middle, and so you play out to the wings. That's an easier way to do it. So for Spurs, the person who leads the club in both categories is Kieran Trippier. For Arsenal, Bellerin is one of the good players. And actually, Man United have this incredible tool there in Paul Pogba as somebody who can progress the play straight through the middle of the park, and he's hugely creative from the midfield. So you could argue that if you have Pogba there creating chances, which he has been so far this season, I think something like 3 key passes a game, then arguably he and Dybala are fulfilling similar roles. However, it seems ridiculous to me that Juventus have to choose either or. I think if I were Juventus, I'd be thinking, how can we have a club where we can play Dybala, Bernardeschi, and try and get a Pogba in? That would be something that I'd be trying to think about.
They're not going to be able to afford Paul Pogba.
If they sold Dybala, they would. Definitely.
Yeah, but that's what my point. They couldn't have. I don't think they could afford him without selling one of those.
I think they've got other assets that they could sell off and probably get a little bit here and there, but I see where you're coming from. Like,
United are going to demand huge fees.
It seems like mortgaging your future to pay for the present, which doesn't really make sense to me. And generally speaking, Juventus are the last club I would expect to sell a 25-year-old superstar in order that they can keep their 33-year-old superstar and bring in, you know, another guy in the midfield. That seems very, very strange to me. They definitely need to regenerate the midfield, but I think they could probably do it without getting Pogba. They could do it just by doing savvy purchases of sort of 40 to 50 million. So, for instance, Aaron Ramsey looks like he's going to go on a free next summer. That sounds incredibly Juventus to me. They could get him. They could get in another midfielder, and probably fix this issue without having to sell Dybala.
And there's other young players at the club who are sort of ready to step in when required. Yeah. I think Juventus had a squad of around 24, and 13 of those are over 28. And they are pretty much mainstays in the team. And then there's people like Rodrigo Bentancur and Daniele Rugani who have been accepting bit part minutes for the last couple of years, and they're ready to transition in like that, pretty much. I mean, Bentancur I'd like to see more of because I think he got 580 minutes last season, and it's hard to tell whether he can pick up Sami Khedira's mantle. In Argentina, his defensive output was huge, but he was still creating a key pass, which is like vintage Khedira, right? Box to box, energetic.
Crazy pass.
Yeah, sort of. I think it's 50 passes a game, so he's heavily involved in play as well. So it'd be interesting to see his development. But a little bit threadbare. I do think that Juventus are probably going to do not major surgery next year.
But for me, a player like Pogba is just not a Juventus
like that
signing.
may happen.
I just don't see Pogba as a Juventus signing. I think they got rid of him for what did we?
Ronaldo was the least Juventus signing,
of course.
in
but
the last 10
is
years.
An absolute plump at winning the Champions League under Allegri. That's the reason that he has been bought in. They tried it with Higuain, the test failed. They're going to try it again with Ronaldo. They are not going to go out and spend 200 million on Paul Pogba because that's what United are going to demand. He's still got 3 years left on his contract, Paul Pogba.
Yeah.
We turned over 630 million last year. There's no need to sell Paul Pogba.
This is another thing I find really interesting about Dybala in that his output in Europe has always been quite modest, and you said it just then that they are really going for the Champions League. This season is geared
all about
to winning the Champions League, and that is why he's changing his formation.
Yeah.
That is why he's trying to get the best out of Ronaldo, and it is a little bit odd, a bit jarring to see Juventus kind of make these short-term
Bonucci's prime example. Bonucci,
or affect that consistency.
The return of Bonucci at the expense of Matteo Caldara is the prime example that they are going balls to the wall to win a Champions League under Allegri. Allegri's leaving if they don't, I think.
But Dybala has actually struggled in Europe. I think his best season was 4 in 11, and apart from a couple of virtuoso performances against Barcelona, was it last year or the year before? He's not really had that much of an impact, and that's a little bit of an indictment. When it comes to Dybala and bringing Ronaldo in, he must be thinking, okay, these guys don't trust me to spearhead an attempted win at the Champions League, so to say. Although his game does change a little bit in the Champions League, doesn't it? He becomes a bit more of a creator, and I suppose his numbers are going to struggle this season with Higuain dropping out, because Higuain was really selfless in that regard. But
I kind of feel that I think around Christmas, I actually think this is the best start Juventus have made to a season in 8 years. So
the best start?
The best start
by points.
By points. They've taken more points this season than they have in the previous 8.
That's surprising, because they've won like 3 of the last 5 by 1 goal.
Yeah, they're I think
they have won
they've
them.
won them.
Whereas the last 2 years they had quite slow starts points-wise.
I mean,
their
by
underlying
points, like you just said.
Their underlying performance, I'd say, is worse than it's been the last 2-3 years.
But equally, I always feel around November to January, Allegri tweaks about 2 things in the system every single year, and then suddenly they just absolutely hammer everyone. And I could totally see around November to January, Allegri's playing with systems to try and get Dybala and Ronaldo to work. Mandzukic to work.
Hey, he's doing
exactly.
It now.
And around Christmas, you're not going to see Dybala smash 25 goals in the same side as Ronaldo, because he's there to serve Cristiano.
He's probably not going to smash. He's not a 25 goal striker in the league anyway. Well, he's not. There's an argument as to whether he's a striker, but his expected goals last season showed him to be very fortunate to get 22. I think he was overperforming by 8 goals based on the quality of chances he was creating, because he scored an awful lot of free kicks, didn't he? He scored a fair few goals from outside the box. But yeah, I mean, Allegri's already played a 3-5-1-1.
Yeah.
So like you said, I remember Paul Pogba in his last season, 15-16 as well, when he left. He left after that season, but in that final season, after Vidal and Pirlo had left, they were 12th in October, and then they just took 73 points out of the next available 75. That's the sort of form we expect from Allegri, isn't it? Because he always
finds
weirdly
a way.
enough, he kind of uses the first 8 games to. I suppose you're afforded that luxury in the Serie A with the squad he's got, but
I mean,
he will find a way.
As for the Paul Pogba, Jose Mourinho situation, we may as well touch on it, because it's been massive news this week, obviously, with the public fallout. That video that went viral, I think it did 2 million views in an hour on Twitter alone, of him and Jose's frostiness on the training ground, and Jose stripping him of the vice captaincy before Pogba then sent the Snapchat and the Instagram while sat in the stands during the derby game, of him laughing with Luke Shaw.
So
it didn't go down well.
Do you think this is a case of it takes 2 to tango, or is Mourinho significantly more to blame for the breakdown in relationship between him and Pogba?
It takes 2 to tango, for sure. And in this situation, it takes 3 to tango, because Mino Raiola will have his big old oar in there and stirring the pot constantly. But there are a number of problems at the club. There are problems at the board. There are problems with the owners. There are problems with the managers. Problems with the player. But at the heart of it all is Jose. Jose has a problem with Ed Woodward. Jose has a problem with Luke Shaw. He has a problem with Martial. He has a problem, let's say 2 seasons ago, with a player like Bastian Schweinsteiger. He has a problem now with Paul Pogba. He then has a problem with a coach. And it all sort of starts from him. The same happened at Chelsea. I remember fans holding up signs at Chelsea that read, Cesc, Hazard and Costa, the rats of the bridge. Do you remember that? Similar banners were held at Real Madrid as well when he was there, because he cultivates, especially within fans in the stadium, he cultivates that sort of it's me against everyone figure, where he's walking along applauding the away fans, he's in front of the away fans when they've won 1-0, he's really giving it. So the fans start, in the stadium especially, less on social media, start to side with him and away from the players. But I am now out of excuses for Jose Mourinho. We can't keep blaming the players, because he's changed the players every week. It's Martial's fault. Well, he's not playing anymore. and we're still crap. It's Pogba's fault. Well, we didn't play against Derby. We're still crap.
Yeah, I think the most damning question
and
is,
over, we're crap.
Who has he improved?
The only players that he's like really improved, I think you can't even say he's improved De Gea. De Gea is probably the best goalkeeper in the world. Lingard, yeah. I mean, it's
I think Rashford's actually a lot better than he was, but that might just be because of his age.
And he's got a problem now. When David Moyes lost his job, the reason that Moyes, everything fell apart so quickly was because his home form went to His home form was an absolute disaster. Jose previously has cultivated a sort of feeling amongst home fans that this is an absolute fortress. I remember he went, I think, 33, 34 games unbeaten at Old Trafford 2 seasons ago. Now, it's like a playpen, Old Trafford. The same thing happened at LVG. Teams are coming there and running all over us.
So what's happened at the start of the season?
Should have beaten us there. Tottenham hammered us 3-0. Even that, the best performance we've had at Old Trafford, Tottenham beat us 3-0. Wolves played us off the park. I think they had 8 shots on target. Derby played us off the park, championship team. He was tactically outclassed by a manager that's been in the job 4 months, in Frank Lampard.
In what sense? Because I know you actually watched that game in its entirety.
In the sense that Jose deployed 2 defensive midfielders in front of a back 4 against a championship side. Frank Lampard used Mason Mount and he used Wilson to get in between the lines of the 2 and the 4 and caused absolute havoc all game. To the stage where in the 80th minute we had Eric Bailly up front with Fellaini and Lukaku, and we're pumping balls from Fred, who was a centre half. Little Fred, pumping balls into the box with Eric Bailly up front. That absolutely unacceptable. That's a Nigel Pearson move.
Wow.
Seriously, it's not good enough. The home form is what's going to make the home form, and the politics amongst Jose Mourinho and the board is what's going to get him the sack fairly soon, because he's run out of excuses now, Jose. If I hear him say, well, the players shouldn't, or anybody in fact say, the players shouldn't be coming out and publicly battering the manager, like Pogba did when he came out and said attack, attack, attack. Well, I'm sorry, but that flips both ways. Jose Mourinho does all of his dirty laundry in public.
Yeah, he
hammers Shaw, he hammers Martial, he hammers
well.
Pogba. Previously, he cultivated a siege mentality at the likes of Chelsea where it was us, we're together against you. Now it's me against everyone.
Worryingly, in every press conference, he just looks on the precipice of breaking down. He's lost that charisma. He's lost the ability to kind of alleviate pressure on his squad. It's now sort of moving it onto various players to kind of buy himself some time, because I think I don't know, there's maybe a bit of foreboding there. But as someone who's not as emotionally invested as Joe, what do you make of the whole predicament at Manchester United?
And how do we solve it?
Come on, Van Straten.
Well, I agree with you about getting rid of Mourinho, but I think you've got to be really careful about who you pick. I mean, it seems to me like if Man United have money to burn, currently the only merit of keeping Mourinho in the position is that you don't have to pay him off.
15 mil it would cost.
And so, but if you've got infinite money, you might as well do it. Like, I don't think that Mourinho is going to get them any points over a replacement manager for the rest of the season. He might get you one stage further in a cup competition, but I really don't believe that he's doing a good job at the moment. So yeah, I'd be looking to get rid of him, but I'd be really careful about who I picked, about who I got in to replace him. I think that's the issue.
I see loads of people as well say, well, what manager would get better out of this team? It's all dead wood. Is it really dead wood?
No,
Lukaku, Martial, Rashford, Pogba. If you can't score more than 1 goal and have 3 shots on target, with that squad available against Derby County, you don't deserve to manage.
You have the wrong manager. Like, what you need is a guy, the wrong style of manager. Like, the thing is actually, Man United's squad is not dissimilar to Arsenal's at the moment. You have really good attacking players and you have horrible defenders. And the way that Man United should be trying to play at the moment is to just run like just open field and just be like, we will outscore you, and you will, because your attack's amazing.
100%.
Like, that's what Arsenal should be doing at the moment. And Arsenal are doing a similar thing where Emery's managed to, what Emery normally does is fix the defence and sort of stifle the attack a little bit. So far he's managed to stifle the attack but not yet fix the defence. We need a similar guy who kind of says like, right, okay, we've got these amazing attacking players, so we're just going to attack you.
Yeah.
And at the back, we're going to concede a few more goals than you'd like, but that's just going to have to be how it is. That's what they've got the talent for. They haven't got the talent to shut up shop.
I mean, you say stifled attack, at least like Aubameyang and Lacazette are still getting away 3+ shots per game. Paul Pogba's having more shots than Romelu Lukaku.
It's crazy.
Yeah,
Honestly.
though Lukaku is one of the leading players in the league by XG per 90, which actually Lacazette and Aubameyang are not. But I see what you mean. Like I think that's partially down to how good Pogba's been so far this season. But it seems ridiculous to me that Mourinho is making a big issue of the fact that what am I going to do with Martial? What am I going to do with Rashford? It's just I feel like another manager would come out there, even if you got in Roger Schmidt for just the rest of the season, or someone who would play like an absolute,
for a while,
someone who would play like a maniac.
Well, here's another thing.
Even Rodgers. Look, if Rodgers were available, Rodgers did exactly this.
You better watch your mouth, Van Straten.
He did this brilliantly with Liverpool. He managed to get a side that should have been nowhere near the title race. And yes, it was because of Suarez, and yes, it was because of Sturridge and Sterling. But he had Steven Gerrard playing as defensive mid, and I think United sort of need to embrace that a little bit.
But there are also problems. I feel like one of the key things we need to get right when the next appointment comes, we need a man manager. The last 3 managers of Manchester United have been disastrous managers. David Moyes laughed out of the dressing room. Louis van Gaal off the entire dressing room. Everybody hated him by the time he left. And Jose Mourinho, he can't have an ally in that dressing room anymore, Jose Mourinho, other than maybe Nemanja Matic and Romelu Lukaku, because he's everybody else off.
That's what a really good sporting director is supposed to do as well, right? In terms of being the bridge between the manager, the fans, the manager, the players. So I appreciate what you're saying, but is that just down to Jose Mourinho? Because if you've seen a consistent pattern in the last 2 or 3 managers, is it structurally at the club?
Maybe, but equally, I feel like Louis van Gaal and Jose Mourinho are in a similar sort of ilk. Not the most
people who want complete
expressive.
control.
They're very disciplined managers in terms of positional play. Not a lot of tactical flexibility between them, especially with Louis van Gaal in his second season. It was rigid, but. It honestly bemuses me when you look at our front line and you think Rashford, Lukaku, Martial, Sanchez has been diabolical, so drop him. But he's undroppable under Jose Mourinho because of the perceived work ethic.
He's creating the most chances per match.
The talent's
still there, though. I think a better manager gets.
Exactly, we've seen at Manchester United, Lukaku, Rashford and Martial start together 3 times in 3 years.
Jesus.
That's unacceptable. That's absolutely unacceptable. Nowhere near good enough. And for Jose Mourinho, if your team can't defend, go out and score some goals.
Well, exactly. This is the thing with Van Gaal. Van Gaal kind of neutered his attack, but
his defence
in exchange, his defence was fantastic. His defence was so good. And Mourinho's defence is getting dunked on every week. Yeah. And in return, nothing.
3 shots on target against Derby County.
It's the hope that Lukaku will just somehow create a goal out of nothing. And to be fair to him, he's actually pretty good at that. Lukaku's performance in this Man United side has gone unheralded because this United side have been so bad. But I think Lukaku's been doing a fantastic job since he arrived.
He's been poor recently though.
Well, he's not really getting the service, but I think there's only so much he can do. I think last year he did a great job. So I think now just a manager who's going to look at the squad objectively and say, an Italian manager would do this, but actually most managers generally come in with one plan and they're going to do that regardless. That's the way they operate.
I feel like Jardim would be a fun appointment.
Well, Jardim, you could at least imagine he'd do something with this squad now, and then as you turn it over, we know he can deal with squad turnover. We know that he can develop younger players. Fundamentally, you need to have some of the same attitude as Juventus, as in you need to say, Mourinho to you should be your Cristiano Ronaldo. In the sense of being like, okay, we can't over all our young stars and the future of the club in exchange for getting the best out of this one person.
Yeah.
That can't be what it is.
Yeah, he's going to go soon, Jose. There's an absolute implosion coming within that squad. I don't know whether it'll be public or whether it'll be behind the scenes, but he's fallen out with everyone. Ed Woodward's probably written his notice already.
Obituary. But just to go back to what you were saying, if Romelu Lukaku can't create chances for himself, and if his shot numbers do continue to suffer, one of the reasons you finished second last campaign was because he overperformed and David De Gea overperformed. And if you're losing 50% of your kind of players with exceptional output, then we're going to see maybe a fairer representation of where Manchester United should finish this season.
Some of the saves De Gea has already made this season.
And you are, at the minute, going to finish outside of the top 4.
Yeah, comfortably. But I said this at the start of the season, we're going to finish 6th. The preparation was horrible. The summer was horrible. There was no faith in the manager, so why not get rid of him? It's been a mess from top to bottom at Manchester United, and selling Paul Pogba to Juventus is not going to solve it. It's going to make it worse. He's part of the solution. He might be part of the problem now, but he's part of the. At the end of the day, he's part of the solution. So I'm just saying it right now. Sack Jose. Get him out. He's got to go.
I think Paul Pogba is amazing. I think he's actually been. I saw somebody on Twitter saying that he's been bang average since arriving at United.
Jesus.
That person's a.
Do you know, one of the nice little nuggets I found I was writing my scout report was that Paul Pogba is the only player inside the top 10 in the Premier League, the only outfield player inside the most long balls completed in the top 10 in the Premier League. The rest are goalkeepers, and that is an indictment of how he's had to kind of sacrifice his natural attacking instincts, despite still taking 3 shots, which is kind of like much to his credit, to ping around these balls at the base of the Manchester United midfield because no one else can stitch midfield to attack together.
100%.
Matic has been a horrible signing.
He's literally doing it all at the minute, Paul Pogba. 3 shots and 8.2 long balls.
And that's despite Jose, not because of him.
Yeah, that's just because Paul Pogba is like absurdly talented.
It's out of necessity, not choice, yeah.
So yeah, if Pogba does leave though, I don't see him going to Juventus. That's the simple one.
I'd love it though.
Especially at
the Telegraph reported that he wants to leave for Barcelona. If Barcelona paid 140 for Coutinho, knows what they pay for Pogba.
Yeah.
Honestly.
Would you be excited about the prospect of him leaving?
Yeah, I'd be delighted. I'm delighted any time Man United lose a great player. I'd be overjoyed if he left Man United because it'd be fun. It was like when they sold Angel Di Maria. I was like, I'm not going to let myself believe it till it happened. And when it happened, I was like, this is amazing. Because that season, I know he tailed off in the second half of the season. He was great that year. And Man United have this tendency just to like themselves over. If they kept all these players, you know, who they've got rid of, like if they kept like, you know, Januzaj, if they kept Johnny Evans, if they kept all these guys, they'd actually have a more well-rounded, deeper squad.
Yeah, but surely we can see right now Jose is doing exactly what he did with Eden Hazard. He did the exact same with Eden Hazard. Eden Hazard was days away from leaving. He was vilifying him week in, week out, Eden Hazard, when Chelsea finished in, 15th in the league when he left?
Yeah, I was excited about it.
And everybody's going, Eden Hazard's leaving. It's literally the exact same.
But there's no way United let Pogba leave, which is good.
I've not seen the Snapchat or the Instagram post from the stands. So I don't know the sort of
He's laughing.
The tone of it. Is this after United have conceded the equaliser?
This is during the game. I don't know the exact minute.
I suppose it's all down to context. But does he have, in this instance, the whole refusing to shake his hand in training? Does he have?
Pogba shakes his hand, or does Jose refuse to shake his hand?
No, they shake hands. They shake hands, and then Mourinho says something.
It's a little bit obscured because he does a little gives him the side eye, doesn't he?
He gives him the side eye.
Yeah, Mourinho says something, and that's when Pogba's like. But
so in this isolated incident, does he have just cause?
Pogba?
Yeah, I mean, if you've just lost a derby and you're the manager and you see your star player Snapchatting in the stands, being all laughing and joking, I mean, that's gonna. I mean, it's definitely not something that. It's definitely not something that you let spill into the public domain.
Exactly. How much of a mess is it that you let a cameraman from 100 yards capture that on tape?
It's pretty great.
It's a storm in a teacup, isn't it?
It's pretty great.
It's not pretty great. It's an absolute disaster.
Your problem is Ed Woodward. Ed Woodward needs to stop being a. Like, Ed Woodward has half-arsed it. He made a really sensible decision by not letting Martial go. He said, you know what, we can't let him go. We need to preserve the future of the club. Really sensible decision. But what he's then done is preserve an untenable situation between like one of your club's best young stars and its manager. So he needs to stop being a and just say, like, if we're going to make decisions without the say-so of the manager, it's time to ditch the manager.
I think we're all in agreement, though. I actually wouldn't sack Ed Woodward. Everybody calling for Ed Woodward's head, I think, are wrong.
I mean, there's been moments at the start of this season where I've actually, the word Ed Woodward would literally make your vein throb on your head.
Yeah, don't get me wrong, he's a nightmare, but he's also a commercial genius. Get him on the commercial side and hire a sporting director.
But more importantly, you can't turn over that much. Like, the squad needs change. The manager needs change. You're trying to hire a director of football. You can't also get rid of your chief exec. It needs to be.
We've had this conversation.
It needs to be a bit at a time. It needs to be a bit.
Yeah. Anyway, should we move on?
Should we do a poll? Sack Jose Mourinho or not?
Yeah. Sack Jose Mourinho, yes or no? Vote in the poll up there. I'm saying sack him. Pato, you're saying?
Sack him.
Oh, no.
I think he'd do a great job at Celtic.
I'm a little bit torn because I wanted him at the start of the season to see out the end of this year for multiple reasons. I love him being a pantomime villain. Villain too. Yeah. But I do think that it's getting exponentially worse and he's doing nothing to sort of placate any of the situations.
Come on, mate. Yes or no?
Sitting on the fence, aren't I?
Just swap Rodgers for Mourinho. Job done.
No, keep Jose.
Oh, vote in the poll up there to decide. Just before we move on, we have got a very exciting announcement. Sunday Vibes is being turned into a podcast, mainly because the pub is getting knocked down.
Yeah, that is happening.
But what is the podcast, Pat?
Well, we're going to move into a whole new setting, as Joe said. And don't worry, we're still going to have your 45-minute show up on YouTube every Sunday. But there'll be another 45 minutes available as a podcast. And we will have some new segments. We'll have your input, obviously going to retain that. So I think it's just going to be like twice the amount of content for the same price.
We're calling
Nothing.
Sunday Vibes Extra Time, aren't we?
Boom.
So
Really,
Imagine
really
that.
class, isn't it? Yeah,
It's not great.
But sad news about the pub getting knocked down, isn't it? So pay your condolences in the comments below. Should we go on to quick fire questions?
Let's go.
RIP the pub in the comments below. If you want a brick,
All right, pub.
we should do a competition.
Yeah, let us know and you can have a brick from the pub. Lautaro Carrizo as the first quick fire question. He says, if you were given the opportunity to watch every single game a footballer played, he has to be retired, who would you pick and why?
He has to be retired.
Has to be retired.
Has to be retired.
That's an
I'll kick us
interesting
off.
caveat.
Yeah.
I'm going to go with Ronaldo Fenomeno.
Okay, yeah.
I mean,
I
that'd
think
be good.
Ronaldo-
Wouldn't be that many games.
Yeah, exactly. You wouldn't have to sit there for long and the game quality would be filth.
I told you boys, didn't I, about my night to the night when I watched all of his Cruzeiro goals.
Yeah.
I was
That's
like,
so good.
how is this guy this good at 17, 18?
Yeah, different level.
So what version of Ronaldo would you most look forward to? The Barca, the Inter, or the
Inter.
Real?
The Cruzeiro, probably. But no, probably
I've got the
the
link.
PSV was
probably
pretty
Inter.
outrageous.
I don't know.
That one season at Barca was unreal.
I would just look forward to the whole montage. It would be an absolute treat, and I would sit there happily with some popcorn.
Yeah.
Who are you going to go for?
Jesus, what was that? Was that a kid or a Nazareth?
Chucky's turned up.
Anyway, you know the name of the guy who Ronaldo called his best ever strike partner? It was at PSV, wasn't it?
Oh, Luke Nillis.
Yeah,
Luke
that's
Nillis.
bizarre when you consider all the guys he's played with.
And Ida Johnson was their backup striker.
Weren't we were on the Football Social with Jimmy Floyd
Jimmy
Hasselbank, and he
Floyd.
was like, Nillis was the
Yeah, Nillis was amazing. Then he came to the Premier League with Aston Villa and he suffered a horrible leg break, I think 4 or 5 games in, and pretty much never played again.
Oh, imagine having your leg broken and having to live in Birmingham.
Well, you could leave though, couldn't you? If you don't have to play there.
Wow. Yeah, I suppose.
Who are you going to
not
go for
bad.
then?
Ooh, well, it's a rough one. You know, there are people like Nedved or Edgar Davids that were just really fun to watch and like really energetic and just like when you watch them, you watch the whole game. You know, like Hullet was meant to be like that.
Yeah.
Hullet was a guy who played in defence, in midfield, and as a striker throughout his
Good
career.
shout, man.
And so that would be, and also you get to watch some of the best teams. You get to watch the Euro '88 winning Netherlands team. You get to watch his Feyenoord side that I think won the European Cup. You get to watch his AC Milan side, which obviously had Rijkaard and Van Basten in it, and Maldini and Baresi. So
Ooh.
I don't know. Hullet might be quite a good one, or one of those guys who I know of and I've seen a bit of, but I never saw as much.
Cruyff.
Like what about Guti or a Redondo? That'd be quite.
I think
fun.
Cruyff would be
Cruyff?
unreal.
I think you'd find it frustrating.
In the
I think that when
70s.
you watch old football, it's quite annoyingly.
But surely you can watch it HD
Shapeless.
quality.
Cruyff
No, but it's
would be
not.
interesting because
Just imagine watching like
Pele being
the
there.
evolution
tactics.
of tactics.
Yeah, the
as he
evolution of
goes through his
tactics he
career.
employs.
It'd be
Well,
good to see how good Pele actually was.
Yes,
Di
true.
Stefano
Not just
Puskás.
as calling him a fraud because it's funny. But the interesting thing about Cruyff is that you go from him being a semi-pro or an amateur right through to 10 years later winning the Champions League with the Ajax side, right? So you see the complete professionalisation and the evolution of a club sort of in dire straits to being under Rinus Mikkels conquerors of Europe. That's quite a journey. So that, yeah, Cruyff is a great shout. I don't know why I thought Riquelme the first time
Get out.
that I heard
Riquelme's great.
that I had this question, but just someone who
Paulo Aymar.
just someone who I've always kind of admired, but never watched a lot of full games of. You know, full games featuring, yeah, Pablo Aymar being another. Sort of these people that flirted with being the next Maradona. But yeah, I think probably the more historical figures, maybe like a Stoichkov or a Di Stefano, because Di Stefano, an interesting footballer, he could play multiple positions. Obviously, Real Madrid won 5 Champions Leagues in a row, right? So maybe someone like that. or what was the goalkeeper called? The Black Widow. Ballon d'Or winner.
Levi Yashin.
The
The Black Spider.
Black Spider.
Yeah.
The Black Widow.
Black Widow.
I don't think he was a widow.
That's Scarlett Johansson, isn't it?
Yeah.
Wouldn't mind
Also
that either, to be
very
honest.
good.
So, yeah, Scarlett Johansson.
Next question: who at Football Daily would make the best politician/president?
Doogie.
Doogie would not make the
Doogie's
best.
got the funding.
Doogie's way too emotional. I've seen Doogie snap.
I'm not being serious.
No, that's only
mate.
with technology because he's an old man.
He'd jump a lot.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's too jumpy.
Way too jumpy. Somebody would drop a book and he'd be off the stage.
I don't know who'd be good, man.
He's going to drop a book and you think it's going to take a pot shot.
Sonny Snelling's quite calm to deal with the bull he gets off Dorman and Templeman all the time.
Snelling is very calm. That's a good shout.
Obaseki definitely fancies himself.
He has the worst opinions
you
about
have
everything.
sort of the most politician-like aura in that you're quite convincing. You're a bit of a snake charmer. A bit of a snake,
True.
You know, full stop.
That's a
You're
good
too
shout.
short-tempered.
You
too
are.
impatient.
You are. If you were challenged on question time,
I'd be
I
like,
could see you in the
how
audience.
dare you?
It's like-
Yeah, I'd be like, do you know who the f I am? Shut up.
Yeah, on Andrew Marr, just kicking the shit out of him. I think that'd be an odd one. I don't know about Pat as a politician. I think he blows his top too quickly.
Yeah, I don't think I'd be a good fit, but
Maybe Olivia,
nah,
sat behind the camera now,
Rubbish.
doesn't tend to blow her top too much.
untrustworthy.
Yeah.
This one from King Lou J. Out of the Football Daily office, who are the 3 people you'd pick alongside yourself to go on a road trip across America with?
That's easy.
Wow.
I think that's easy.
That's easy.
I think that's
Go on
quite
then.
easy.
We
I go
genuinely have
Olivia
prep for these
I
questions.
go Olivia
so there
to,
could be
make,
arguments.
to make up with her. And also she takes up less space, which is a desirable thing in one
Okay.
car.
No, but she would bring a lot of with her.
I think Jelleb as well to keep up morale, and also, whilst, you know, if you tell him to shut up, he will shut up. So Jelleb as well. And
Because
then
he's subservient.
last
Classic
one, you
Australian.
want a sort of cultured bloke. So that rules out one or two people straight away.
That's really offensive. We had a great time when we went to Barcelona.
I didn't say you.
We sat up.
I didn't
we?
say you.
Joe loves a sleepover.
He loves to sleep
We had
over.
a conversation that can't be repeated.
I mean, Dorman would be quite good because Dorman, I could argue with.
Dorman!
That would make.
You've lost your head, Van Stride.
It would make.
The no man, he'd say no to literally everything on the
Everything you could
itinerary.
possibly
Yeah, but also,
do.
say you're on a long car journey and you've got like 10 hours to kill. Dorman would say something stupid and I could berate him for 10 hours and the time would pass like that. It'd be great.
So Dorman because you want to.
No, it'd be
Zach because
it's
you
Liv,
want
it's
him to be
Liv,
quiet.
it's
and
Liv
Liv
Zach.
because she's small.
It's Liv Zach and then it's either Dorman or probably you. Or maybe James Wayne, he's quite chill.
Yeah, I'm going Mikey McCubbin, James Wayne. We'll have.
Oh my God, the deep house
This
playing
is a
in that
horrible,
car.
It's a
Yeah,
horrible
literally,
selection.
a deep house
If you
and
get
techno in
pulled
that
over
car.
by the police, you're going
Me-
in jail.
Mikey,
There's no way.
James,
Wayno in his
And,
tropical shirts. He looks like a smuggler. doesn't
This
he?
is an
and
awful selection.
And Jalab. And we'll just rattle our way through the parties.
You'll just be on it. You'll just be on it all the time. You have to get Zach to do the driving because everybody else will be in space.
Zach's the
just
designated driver.
Just techno's just
Designated
pounding. Go on then, who are you going for?
Nah, 2 good answers from you boys. Let's move on.
Oh, we're moving on. You're not going to get your response.
Being diplomatic,
Coward.
best politician. So
Coward.
Henry Williams says, "What's your party trick?"
Fuck,
the
man.
only
opening a
reason-
beer bottle with my.
The only reason that
Nah,
I've put this in is so that we can roll this clip of Doogie Critchley, who's a freak.
Watch this as well.
When you
watch-
drink milk, it's
After that absolute shambles, we go to Julio Martinez to finish it off. Which FD member would be the best or worst commentator?
You wouldn't leave a lot of dead air. You'd
Wouldn't
be
leave a lot of dead out. I'll be a good radio commentator, where it's just like racing.
you've got good
Coming
energy.
down the back straight, and here we go. Across the back line. I'll be an alright
you'd get
racing
livid
commentator.
though. You'd get too angry.
style over substance. You've got
You'd
good
be
energy.
like waste of space.
Yeah, I think you'd be quite a good colour commentator, Patrick.
I always thought that when I was about 6. I was like, I'd be a good football commentator.
You thought you were
if
a
I could
good
be the-
co-commentator when you were 6.
You are sad.
Sociopathic vibes.
You are a psycho.
Right, this guy was- I knew what I was good at.
Six.
I knew what I was good at,
Six.
mate.
I was thinking I'd be a good colour commentator.
I'd like to be Alan
Those are
Smith.
my strengths.
That's what you were thinking when
Those are
you
my
were 6.
strengths. I'd just be excellent at it.
Jesus.
Except for I think my contempt would reach Lawrenson levels very quickly. You know, the first time they made me watch like a Burnley game, I'd be like, slitting my throat in the booth.
Doogie, but more so for another sport. Like he sounds far too
Polo.
Tory to commentate football.
Polo. They're coming down the back straight here. Oh, and Jeffrey's knocked it across the pitch.
Is that what they're saying,
it called?
Polo?
What's it
Coming down
called?
the back straight.
What's
I
it
never
called? The
watched a polo
horse
game.
dancing. What's the horse dancing? called?
Equestrian.
Dressage.
Dressage.
Yeah.
I can imagine him being like, oh, that's excellent.
Out trot.
That's
Cricket.
wonderful.
No, Doogie'd be great at cricket.
Cricket's
Fantastic.
Right arm over the wicket.
No, I'd be much up.
Trotting in.
McCubbin would be a good cricket commentator because
Good
he's the only
lead.
person who'd make it entertaining.
McCubbin would not be a good
McCubbin
commentator.
would not be a good
Cricket is boring.
McCubbin's thoughts are so lateral, like, and they're all happening at the same time. Like his head is, it's like Operation.
Do you know, I reckon
Mindfuck.
that the worst commentator out of the bunch would be Obaseki. Because he would
Oh,
just
yeah.
chat such rubbish.
That guy
He'd be going, oh, we're still rating Messi
He
in the
would,
commentary box.
he
And
is.
the other day, he actually said Harry Kane isn't world class.
Yeah. He is a bad opinion.
That's upset that
dispatcher.
baby. So, well done, Sam.
Well done, Sam.
Anyway.
Obaseki gets shouted down more than anyone.
Your
in the
opinion, because
office.
his opinions stink.
So, who are you agreeing on? Then let's just wrap this.
Oh, who
The
cares?
best commentator.
Doogie.
Yeah, Doogie.
Doogie.
Why
So
not?
that's the end of Sunday Vibes for yet another week. I hope you're excited about the podcast because it is coming soon.
Yep.
But what else is on Football Daily this weekend, gentlemen?
Great cue. Gone.
Guess I'm taking that. Well, Football Social is back on Saturday, of course. We've got hot takes coming out on Saturday. We're actually moving that to Thursday the week after. And of course, Stat Wars, the league, featuring me and Dougie, and another fixture that I have forgotten, but didn't go well for me.
No. but
So-
it'll do, won't it?
There's a spoiler.
It'll do. At least
Bye.
At least you haven't got flies in your pint. Bye.
Nah, you're just an absolute pigeon.